But there are a couple of things while you get the senator ready. I'm going to invite the deputy speaker to take the chair, and there was a housekeeping matter that I missed this morning, but I want it registered in the records. The Honorable Minister Peters, she has expressed her regret. Oh, she's actually here. Okay, she was having a little challenge this morning. Very well, so she's arrived. Okay. No, never and no such allegation. So if I can invite the deputy speaker to take the chair.
Honorable Senator John.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to make my contributions to the debate on the Appropriation Bill 2025 for the year 2025. And I am one who likes to be grateful, so I must thank Almighty God for having us here. I must thank the Honorable Leader of the Opposition for giving me the opportunity to be the voice of the people in North Windward. And this is a position I take seriously, and I intend to represent them well by the mercies of Almighty God. I want to thank my minister, the Honorable Minister of Transport and Works, for his service as well. I know in this political realm, Madam Speaker, it's not easy. You endure hardship, you endure difficulties, but like Paul, which says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, and in difficulties." Madam Speaker, God is good. Madam Speaker, the people of this country heard the Minister of Finance present a budget, as he called it, the best budget for over $1.8 billion. It may not be the best in his words, but it is always one of the largest. All right? I didn't quote. It's the largest budget, and largest compared to what he has presented over the previous years. Madam Speaker, so it's the largest budget with the largest deficit that we have had, largest means of paying amortization, and also sinking funds, largest. All right, Madam Speaker, so we have to put that into context. And in all that, he said that there are no taxes to be increased for this year in this budget. So, Madam Speaker, if there are no taxes for increase, then we have more borrowings. And in this projection, in the estimates of revenue and expenditure, Madam Speaker, we see an increase in collecting tax revenues for this year, which will amount to $757,414,120. And when we go to the pages of details of current revenue, Madam Speaker, we also see increase in the revenues projected to be collected from the different departments. More so, Madam Speaker, of great interest, we are seeing here in the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology, a big increase in VAT that is to be collected here of $159 million up from last year, and within the Ministry of National Security. And I just want to bring it to people's attention. The taxes collected or sale of goods, for sale of goods and services, Passport and Immigration Office. The sale of, well, what they have passports, people getting passport, they will also be, they have a projection of an increase of $2,368,000. That's of great interest, Madam Speaker. So with all that, let me remind our listening audience that we are faced with many challenges in this small island developing state. Numerous challenges we have, namely, increased cost of living, tightening financial conditions. We also have the war in Russia we have to contend with, and the Mideast. We have lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, Madam Speaker, taking all this into consideration, these must weigh heavily on the economic outlook for a country such as ours. Madam Speaker, we have to be reminded, because in this document, pretty picture is painted. But we must be reminded that with these challenges, we are going to face supply chain problems because we are already facing it. And that is why the projects that were there last year, some of them could not be finished because we have problems in sourcing and getting the materials to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And in that also, we must remember that we had disaster that we had to contend with. Madam Speaker, St. Vincent and the Grenadines depends heavily on imports. So we know that whatever we are looking at, we have to look at the effects of getting them here to St. Vincent to get the work done. Madam Speaker, as a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, beautiful country, I will love to see holistic development in this beautiful nation of ours, and I am committed to making my contribution to such development wherever I am able to do that, and I will do it to the best of my ability. And Madam Speaker, the people of North Windward can say that I am not in a position of government, but what I am doing to contribute to the development of North Windward, I am doing it to the best of my ability. In the budget presented, Madam Speaker, we also see a growth of approximately 4.7%. But a growth of 4.7%, and remember, country can have economic growth and development, yes, but it may not be trickling down to the normal man on the road. Madam Speaker, we must ask ourselves the question, is a growth of 4% enough to significantly improve the lives and incomes of people in our country, I think we have to do better. Madam Speaker, we realize that real income, household real income, household disposable income have fallen since 2020. And because of all that has been taking place, we realize that people really don't have much money to spend because of increased cost of living, increased inflation that we are facing. So even though in St. Vincent and the Grenadines there was an increase, and is going to be an increase in minimum wage, Madam Speaker, many householders have to still choose between buying food and paying bills or sending their children to school. Many of them. Because it is not enough to ensure that you live comfortably. Madam Speaker, I want to draw your attention to the budget where the minister states that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, basically, women, we have a high percentage of women. And we are seeing it throughout our society. Women now breaking the glass ceiling, women being head of and CEOs of industries, women being parliamentarians, etc. But in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we also have a large number of single parent households headed by women who are also unemployed. And Madam Speaker, it is worrying because for over the years, the unemployment figure has shown that women are the ones that are being impacted. Yes. So I want to believe that in developing programs, we have to create the environment where these single women can empower themselves. And I don't think that over the years enough emphasis was placed on developing programs that can really empower our women in the rural areas especially. Madam Speaker, what I've been seeing, and I have been going around a long time, doing house to house, is that more and more for our single women, you find them engaged in activities that, informal activities to gain an income. I believe, Madam Speaker, that community-based organizations and creating spaces for NGOs should be a priority because normally these organizations help to create programs and implement programs that will directly impact women positively. They will create the opportunity for them to have a space where they can now gain a skill and gain meaningful employment and become empowered. So I believe, Madam Speaker, and I've seen it here in the budget, that there should be partnerships with NGOs and CBOs to advocate for women's rights and provide direct support to them. Madam Speaker, we have to also look at the mental health of our women, single parent women especially. It is very hard on them when they, especially if they're from economically disadvantaged homes, and with the high rate of unemployment that we have here, it is very hard on them to deal with children, and that is why in the last debate when the minister presented the amount of cases of domestic violence, children. There was an increased amount of domestic violence among children. And we have to be careful within the households that that is not the cause of it. Because when you become frustrated, you're unemployed, your child is looking to you for food, for clothing, for something. Madam Speaker, many things run through our heads as single women when we cannot provide for them. And I do hope, and with the impact of Hurricane Beryl and the volcanic eruption, that continuous programs are put in place so that they can help our women to deal with some of the issues that they are faced with. Madam Speaker, I want to also look at our foster care for children in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When we put children in the hands of, where we're taking them out because they are at risk, and we're putting them in the hands of others, Madam Speaker, we must create the environment and give them the support that they need, full support. Over the years, Madam Speaker, there has been no increase in financial benefit to foster care parents. And I believe with increasing cost of living, more should be placed, or there should be an increase in the stipend or the allowance that is given to foster parents for the care and concern of foster children. And Madam Speaker, I'm not saying it because, you know, some people might be there just for the money, but there are those who genuinely care for our children and treat them as their own. But, Madam Speaker, they need that little support, additional support. Yes, they may be given school allowance. Those are necessaries. But when it comes to the financial allowance for where you have to go to the supermarket to make these children eat healthy, we need to see a little bit more on that allowance. Madam Speaker, I will never dispute the noble intention behind increasing social protection programs, especially after a disaster. I will never dispute that, Madam Speaker. But to address the deeper implications and inefficiencies such programs may entail, because we know what happens, especially after a disaster, Madam Speaker. And we know that the ministry works very hard to get programs on place. But Madam Speaker, we must think of those workers in the ministry that gets burned out, that get all the words that people will throw at them. We must think of them as well. So we have to put policies in place to ensure that our workers are taken care of, as well as those who will be gaining the support that is given there. So, Madam Speaker, while on the surface, when we look at it, expanding social safety net might seem as an immediate remedy to disaster, we must ask ourselves, are we addressing the root causes, or are we merely applying a bandage to the situation? A disaster, Madam Speaker, necessitates robust, forward-thinking solutions, not reactionary ones. And, Madam Speaker, these reactionary measures at times will further strain our already economic situation. So we have to be very careful when we are doing it. So increasing social protection programs, Madam Speaker, without a clear, sustainable funding mechanism, not borrowing, is akin to building a house on the sand. We must ensure that the funding is there, it's sustainable, and it can be for all. Madam Speaker, we are to ensure that when there is a disaster, those in need are immediately given the need that they deserve. And I know sometimes, Madam Speaker, the process may be long and the people get irate at times, but we have to ensure if we are proactive, we will ensure that we put the policies in place so that in the event of any disaster, there's something that is there that we cover first and ensure that these people are well taken care of before anything, Madam Speaker. For years, Madam Speaker, we have been experiencing these disasters, so there must be plans in place for such things. Madam Speaker, we realize, and I think the minister said, the budget 2025 says a people-centered program for relief, recovery, reconstruction. Madam Speaker, a people-centered program does not start from the top. It starts from the bottom up because we must involve our people. And a people-centered program cannot be carried out unless you have servant leaders. Because you must have leaders who are willing to serve the people. And I hear it many times here, I'm not no anybody's servant. The people elect us, and elect you, so that you can be of service to them, Madam Speaker. And in doing that, there must be some form of community-driven recovery initiative where the community is involved in whatever is taking place. Sometimes, Madam Speaker, the community is far-fetched, and that's why we would have all words being thrown. This is a learning process. And if communities are not involved, the process will never be okay. The process, Madam Speaker, will be one that is tainted with all sorts of abuse. Madam Speaker, compassion must be our guide in whatever we do after a disaster. Madam Speaker, I just heard the Minister of Tourism boast largely about the AIA hotels and the increase in cruise ships, overnight passengers, etc. And we are happy for that. And my leader, the leader of the opposition, also spoke largely about tourism and its way forward. And that is why in the New Democratic Party, one of our main pillars of economic recovery also is tourism. So we are also forward thinking as we prepare to govern this country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, after the next election. So, Madam Speaker, I know that tourism is a proven generator, job generator. So especially for our young people and the women, and we know that we go into the communities where we can have eco-tourism, community tourism, and I heard the minister spoke at length about it, and I welcome the initiative because I am from a disadvantaged community where I know that our people can benefit greatly from improved community tourism and ecotourism. Madam, and also heritage tourism, because, Madam Speaker, Garifuna people, very resilient people, we still need to showcase our culture and our identity, Madam Speaker. And we see it around the March 14th, when thousands of people will come to the communities to enjoy the food and to enjoy the culture. Madam Speaker, we don't need to see a one-off. We need to see a continuous thing in getting our people jobs and ensuring that that whatever is done is sustainable. Madam Speaker, with that, I endorse what the member for West Kingston stated, that beautification, cleanliness is important. So as much as we are talking about the large hotels and the urbanization of things here, Madam Speaker, when the tourists leave the wharf to go into these communities, there must be something attractive. Madam Speaker, this is not happening now. Sometimes you're going up, you're driving to these areas and you wonder, is this a community? The roads, overhanging trees, and those are only clean, we know, twice per year. Madam Speaker, no sign of beauty, nothing to lift the spirit, nothing, as would you say, nothing to smile about. Madam Speaker, so I believe that more money should be allocated to the Ministry of Tourism, where more workers can be put in place to ensure that the jobs are continuous and that communities are well kept so that our tourists can enjoy these communities. So beautification should be a continuous thing, Madam Speaker, not a one-off thing. Madam Speaker, with that, we also need to encourage our locals to be involved in community work to get things going as well, but there must be motivation for them. Madam Speaker, being a proud Garifuna woman, I was happy to the announcement of the Minister of Finance on the government's intention to acquire Baliso, the sacred site of our ancestors. And Madam Speaker, I remember joining a pilgrimage to Baliso a couple of years ago. And it was an overwhelming experience, a feeling of sadness, because just going across that rugged water, you go back and you wonder how the people made it, how they made it, Madam Speaker, and going on that, landing there, and touching that soil and knowing the dryness, the barrenness, Madam Speaker, it is something that cannot be explained. And I welcome that acquisition, hopefully, and I pray that it will be very soon. And I will be even happier, Madam Speaker, when the contract is signed, sealed, and delivered to the people. At that time, Madam Speaker, you would hear me saying Sirami. Madam Speaker, in North Windward, I know that there are many things that were done, but development is always taking place. And I would like to see a doctor on site somewhere above the dry river, living in the area to serve the people above the dry river, Madam Speaker. Moreover, while we welcome the MOVE program, and Madam Speaker, I am one who here in Parliament have represented well the disabled, the elderly, because they're dear to my heart. And you would hear mentally ill people. You always hear me questioning the minister on that, because I believe in inclusiveness. And Madam Speaker, while we welcome the MOVE program that the minister spoke about, the people of North Windward need an on-site ambulance service as well, because it becomes very expensive when there is a sick person and the ambulance from Georgetown is not able to come above the river to provide the service at the time, because it may be in Kingstown or what. Madam Speaker, it's very expensive for persons to hire something to get to the nearest health center or hospital, as the case may be. So I do hope that during this term, some acquisition can be made for an ambulance and a doctor to be living in the area. I know there was a doctor house built, but because of the condition of the Overland Clinic, it had to be moved to the doctor's house. So, and I'm seeing here in the budget that there are allocations to start working on the clinic at Overland. So with that said, I'm hoping that the Ministry of Health can look into our problem. Madam Speaker, should have been walking a long time. Madam Speaker, we need to consider education of our youths continuously also about sexually transmitted diseases. Madam Speaker, it is alarming when you hear of a 12-year-old contracting an STD or becoming pregnant. And sometimes, Madam Speaker, we are hush-hush about these matters. But we are not. These are matters that we have to bring to light so that we can address the issue. It's very real. Madam Speaker, we need a voice on these issues. And I don't think the Ministry of Health is really addressing these issues for parents to be more supportive and for the ministry to be more supportive in every aspect. Get all stakeholders involved so that we can address the issues of teenage pregnancy, which we see is on the increase, because we're seeing here in the Ministry of Mobilization that more and more teenagers are getting, teen mothers are getting help. So we realize that teenage pregnancy is also an issue that we have to take into consideration. Madam Speaker, we don't hear much on that. But these are social ills that we have to ensure that we bring to light, because, Madam Speaker, our youths are important to the future development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Madam Speaker, it has been more than time for the allocations made for infrastructure development above the river, and I welcome them. So the city fence is an important project for the Sandy Bay community, because over the years we have seen the beach just washing away because, again, of climate change. And we know that persons living along there, and even the roads along there, will soon be washed away if nothing is done, if nothing was being done. So, Madam Speaker, the 50 million city fence project is welcome. What I want to see, Madam Speaker, is the
Honourable
economic
Member, you have
spill-off.
10 minutes remaining.
Thank you very much. Is the economic spill-off into the communities that are having these large infrastructure projects. Again, Madam Speaker, as an educator, I welcome the allocation for the Sandy Bay Secondary School. A school I have given my contribution to so that students can gain some holistic development as well. And Madam Speaker, I know that this school is long overdue. I await its construction. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Sports brag a lot about sports development in St. Vincent. And Madam Speaker, we are happy that, development has taken place. But, Madam Speaker, sports can only be better in SVG if grassroots facilities are developed and maintained. Madam Speaker, I host a T10 cricket competition it was for North Windward, because, sports was dead in North Windward. And when I said, let us get things going. Let us get our youths involved. And netball. And then we have the road relays and those things, Madam Speaker, because I'm a sports person. I love sports. I love to see young people involved. And Madam Speaker, many times the pitch is on me. I have to go and fix the pitches that I'm using at the sporting facilities. Madam Speaker, there are no toilet, washroom facilities in most of these things. And I know in Sandy Bay, the London playing field operated is operated by the national lotteries, I think. And many times I asked about twice for the use of it, but I wasn't granted because they said some work was being done there. I hope that the next time the work will be completed and, we can get that facility to use so that the people can enjoy cricket and netball. I know in Sandy Bay also, Madam Speaker, hard court was built. But the condition of that, and it's only like 4 years now, and the condition of the hard court is like it has been there for 20 years. I do hope that London playing field is taken into consideration for lighting and for better upgrading to ensure that the people of North Windward and the youths further their skills in terms of sports. Madam Speaker, the New Democratic Party, when they launched their sports program, we said that we will build a multi-sporting complex when we get into government across the Dry River. And Madam Speaker, with my passion of sports, I will ensure that my leader get it done. Madam Speaker, the people of Rabuka, Caratal, Bay Road, Landy Park are also still yet to reap some benefits in sports, and I heard the minister said that there will be a sports facility being built this year, so I'm happy for that because something I'm always pushing for our young men to have within the community so they don't have to travel very far to enjoy their benefit, Madam Speaker. Another issue for the people in North Windward is the amount of tires that are being burnt at Rabuka. Madam Speaker, when one could stay at Chester Cottage and look at the black clouds of smoke in Rabuka when they're burning their tires, very unsightly, very damaging, breathing problems are being created. Madam Speaker, I know last budget there was a shredding facility, allocations made for a shredding facility for tires, but I'm not sure what happened to it because I'm not here. I don't know if it is completed, but burning continues, so it tells me that they have some issues with it. I'm not sure, and I would really like to hear what is it, because we must address that problem of pollution. Madam Speaker, we also need to ensure, because when we look at agriculture in North Windward, one can see a lot of idle lands in Rabuka, Orange Hill, and the Park Estate, a lot of idle lands that can be used effectively if workers, farmers are motivated to get things done. And they can only be motivated, Madam Speaker, when they are sure of a market for whatever they are producing, when they are sure that the price is right, when they are sure that predial larceny is addressed, Madam Speaker. And I know that the New Democratic Party has been making the call for the addressing of predial larceny for farmers, and we know that agriculture is also one of our main pillars of economic development, where we will address those issues and motivate our farmers to become more involved in agriculture. Madam Speaker, a $30 million fish facility was opened in Owe, and we welcome it because we thought that it would have been working for the people. But somewhere along the line, I know government once said they fail in operating it. Not quoting, but just interpreting what it is. And Madam Speaker, it is still there, needing much more input in order to get it running. And NDP government will get it done. Again, Madam Speaker, I welcome the rehabilitation project for roads in Dixon. The people of Dixon have waited long enough, and I'm sure that they are happy to hear that this problem of road will no longer be an issue because they are going to get some road repairs done in the small community. And Madam Speaker, once again, I want to know that economic spill-off is impacting people positively in that community. Madam Speaker, I must reiterate that our people want democracy. They want to have respect for human rights. They want to be respected for their freedom of speech, rule of law, and good governance. They want better roads, better health care, improved standard of living, better paid jobs, a reduced cost of living, and a better security when it comes to crime. Madam Speaker, in dealing with security, we have too many dark areas in our communities. Madam Speaker, if you're walking in the night from Owe to Fancy, because we know the problem of transportation, the last street light in Owe is by the Big River. The first light is by the welcome sign, welcome to Fancy. Within that span, Madam Speaker, not one light. Madam Speaker, that's a security risk. And I'm hoping that this will be addressed also, where lights can be placed in those areas so that people can feel secure. Madam Speaker, I believe that it is time for this government to reset. Rather than come to the people with sweet-sounding cliches, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, they opt to return to the same old playbook about not how they are running the country, but comforting themselves that if the NDP was there, it would be worse. You can't compare something that is not there, Madam Speaker. You can't, it's not there, so you don't know how it will run. You don't know, Madam Speaker. They measure progress, Madam Speaker, not by how badly they are doing, but by how badly it could have been.
Honourable Member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to just turn to an issue which the Prime Minister and others listed my name and family as recipients of income support for agriculture. I was waiting on it, Madam Speaker, but I already left this honourable house So I could not defend myself at that time. Madam Speaker, when I registered my husband for the income support program offered by this government for farmers, I did so against his wishes. But because I know he is duly qualified. Madam Speaker, I, Senator Shevern Lewis John, I am a proud farmer. Not now, but for a long time. I dug my hands in the ground. I have my stained clothes. And Madam Speaker, we invest heavily from the income that we receive in our lands. We buy seeds, we pay farmers, Madam Speaker. Many persons receive production support. No problem with that. My husband and I work the same plots of lands. So, Madam Speaker, when I registered, I categorically told the officers that we work the same plots of land and the information will be the same, so I don't need the income. They acknowledge it, Madam Speaker. They acknowledge it. Madam Speaker, I was pleasantly surprised when they said that my name was being called for distribution. So I said, I'm going to collect the card and highlight the following in this budget presentation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that civil servants and public servants also lost income in the disaster. Income that they have reinvested from time to time from their own salary. And Madam Speaker, that what was being said with the victimization, Madam Speaker, and I'm going to address it. I'm happy that my family, as they said, I didn't register my father or any other person because they registered, and my father is a bona fide farmer. He even worked with the Minister of Transport before he became Minister, Madam Speaker. So he's a bona fide farmer. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member, but you have...
Let me just finish my point, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
That my...
Honourable Member.
I'm happy, thank you, Madam Speaker. Just let me finish the sentence. That my family getting that income support doesn't negate the fact that there is a number of persons who are termed to be NDP and never received that income support, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, I stand like
Honourable
Queen
Member.
Esther,
Honourable Member.
here to represent the people and to be the voice
Honourable
of the
Member.
people. And I continue to do so. And Madam Speaker, with great representation, I want to thank you. And Madam Speaker, may the good Lord bless us all as we continue to work for the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you very much. Much obliged.
Further debate? Further debate?
So that I beg to move that the House be suspended until 3 o'clock for the lunch interval.